I think I'm going to start with the personal and then go to the professional, because I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Ian Russ, for more than 2 decades as a volunteer at Stephen Wise Temple. I wasn't a volunteer, he was a volunteer. Ian never said no. We conducted sessions for bar and bat mitzvah kids and parents. We discussed parenting with bar and bat mitzvah parents. We discussed adolescence. We brought Ian in when we had difficult moments in the course of the decades where parents needed support and advice. I consulted personally and professionally with Ian for cases I encountered as a rabbi. And Ian was always present, always wise, always ready to listen, and just an incredible gift to this congregation, someone who not only grew up here, but also someone who devoted his life to this place, and as you're going to hear, was transformed by the contact he had. And it's a wonderful story that Ian's going to share about how synagogue life can deeply strengthen and transform and do all the things that make life meaningful and fulfilling, and Ian is going to share that with us. So that's the personal. Now the professional. Dr. Russ is a prominent marriage, family, and child therapist. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Social Clinical Psychology from the Wright Institute in LA. He served in the faculties of the National College of Juvenile and Family Court Judges of the Pacific Oaks College in Pasadena, Cal State Northridge, and Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, and the University of Judaism. He's authored more than 45 books devoted to protecting children in divorce and sexual abuse cases. And he was the past president of the California Professional Society on the Abuse of Children and a member of the International Society for the Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect. He has also served for 22 years, and I didn't know this, served for 22 years as a consultant to the top leadership at the William Morris Talent Agency. It's Hollywood, of course. So it's with great pleasure and with great affection that I invite Ian to come forward and share his personal story with you.
I'm good. No, I'm fine. I'm good. First, as I sat here this evening and I looked at this bima, I remembered when I got here that when I was 18 years old, Rabbi Zeldin asked me to teach a 3rd grade class on Sunday mornings. And the topic was Israel. So I came to him one day and I said, I can't teach Israel without a kibbutz. This building was not yet built. And Rabbi Zeldin said, go ahead. And so we got shovels, we got fertilizer, and right where this bima is, we built the kibbutz. At the end, we had fruits, some vegetables. We celebrated with the parents. Rabbi, thank you, Rabbi Yoshi and Rabbi Stern, for giving me the honor of standing on the bima of this sacred space. My 60-year association with Stephen Wise Temple has profoundly affected my life since my early days, and I believe reflects the power of the clergy to transform the lives of congregants. Before our family moved to Los Angeles in the early 60s, we never had to shop around for a synagogue. That's because my father, of blessed memory, had been an ordained cantor, and we belonged to the Reformed congregation he was serving. He decided to join the fledgling Free Synagogue, later named Stephen Wise Temple, for 2 reasons. First, he liked the idea of a startup congregation led by a charismatic rabbi. And second, because Rabbi Zeldin had been his teacher at the Hebrew Union College in New York. I said it better the first time. Because when he was a teacher at the Hebrew Union College in New York, he was taught by a rabbi, and that was Isaiah Zeldin of blessed memory. We read in Pirkei Avot the sayings of our sages. Appoint a teacher and acquire a companion for thyself, and judge all people with the scale weighted in their favor. Aside from my father, Rabbi Zeldin was the most significant male role model in my life. He believed in me and trusted I could do almost anything that he wanted me to do for the temple. When I would say, "But what if I mess up?" he would respond, "We'll fix it." Few people who run organizations do that. As the temple had no cantor in the beginning, and we were actually at St. Albans Church in Westwood, I asked Rabbi Zeldin if I could fill that role. He said, "Go right ahead." He didn't seem to mind when I told him that I sometimes have trouble staying on pitch. Not wanting to embarrass myself in front of the worshipers, I came up with a strategy. Whenever the organist heard me go off pitch with it, he would go and play the melody so I could get back on. I continued like that until construction of the new synagogue, and a professional cantor was hired. I went on to lead Shabbat morning services with my friend Patty Golden, and later auxiliary high holiday services on my own. Thanks to Rabbi Zeldin, I gained the confidence to take risks and accomplish things I couldn't even have imagined. His fingerprints can be detected on every page of my professional life. But I am most grateful to him for helping me and my family get through the most traumatic event of our lives, a car crash that occurred within earshot of the temple on the evening of January 14, 1968. I was 16 years old and had recently gotten my driver's license. As we were leaving Cafe Danza, which was a Israeli folk dance place on Pico Boulevard, I asked my parents if I could drive us home, and they said yes. We were struck by a drunk driver barreling out of the Mulholland Tunnel. Tragically, my mother was killed in the accident, although my family did not know it at the time, as we were gravely injured and in no condition to understand what had happened. In his typical family manner, Rabbi Zeldin involved himself in the crises of his congregants. The next day, Rabbi Zeldin accompanied my older brothers, Barry and Michael, to the hospital to inform my father that my mother had not survived. In accordance with Jewish tradition, she was buried within 24 hours of her passing, and Rabbi Zeldin officiated. Meanwhile, I asked the hospital doctors and nurses again and again, "Where's my mother?" The answer was always the same: "We'll tell you later." It never occurred to me that she was no longer alive. On the fifth day, my dad, accompanied by Rabbi Zeldin and my two older brothers, entered my room and delivered the dreadful news. Overwhelmed by grief and guilt, I was given a strong sedative, and when I awoke, I didn't know if I had dreamed that my mother was dead. The doctors confirmed that it was true. Without my mother, our distressed family began falling apart. I was tormented by guilt, and my disfigured face required a chain of reconstructive and plastic surgeries. It was too much for me to handle. I decided to go away for a while, and I packed a few belongings into my car before heading out. And then I had lunch with my best friend, Michael Zeldin, one of the rabbi's sons. I told him that I just want to wander around the country to find myself. Michael was sympathetic, but said, "You can't leave without saying goodbye to my dad because he has plans for you." I promised to do so. By the time I reached the temple, Michael had already informed his dad of my intentions. Sitting in Rabbi Zeldin's office, I didn't even complete a sentence before he said, "I spoke with Florence. You are moving in with us. You can use Joel's room. He'll be away at college." I immediately accepted Rabbi Zeldin's invitation. I was very thankful, though unsure of why they would want to take me into their home. I later learned from Michael Zeldin that as the rabbi of a large congregation, his father had to deal on numerous occasions with the tragedy of a child losing a parent. But this case seemed to affect him more deeply than others. The mother of 6 children was suddenly taken away. It hit close to home because Rabbi Zeldin knew, too, that his wife would be a quiet, calming adult figure during a tumultuous time in my life. That proved to be the case. I stayed with the Zeldins for almost a year, and they brought me a sense of equilibrium. Rabbi Zeldin did have plans for me. As soon as I turned 18, the laws have changed a little bit since then, and was eligible for a commercial driver's license, Rabbi Zeldin called on me to drive one of the school buses and ferry the children from around the San Fernando Valley to the temple's new day school. It may have been his way of signaling that the collision wasn't my fault and that he trusted me with the safety of the students. His confidence in me contributed enormously to my healing. When I was 19, I traveled around Europe for the summer. When I went to the American Express office, you know, remember American Express checks? Okay. The clerk said, before I was leaving, the clerk turned to me and he says, "Well, I have a letter for you." I had no idea because nobody knew my itinerary. I looked at it. The letter was from Rabbi Zeldin, asking me to phone him right away, which I did. He said, "We need you to run our camps and to hire the counselors." I had never run the camps before, but hopped on the next airplane home. When I asked Rabbi Zeldin how he knew that I was in Amsterdam, he said that he had sent the letter to every American Express office in Europe. I ran the Stephen Wise summer camp for 2 years. It was Rabbi Zeldin who encouraged me to go to rabbinical school, and he offered to pay my tuition at the Hebrew Union College. I took him up on his offer and studied at HUC for 2 years before shifting to psychology as the locus of my interest in pastoral counseling. But my passion for Judaism remained as strong as ever. And one of the great rewards I got was that years later, I got to teach education courses to the rabbis and educators who were training at the Hebrew Union College. It was here at Stephen Wise I met Dahlia, over here, a Hebrew teacher who would become my former wife and mother of my 2 sons. It was here that a fellow congregant introduced me to the CEO of the William Morris Talent Agency, where I would serve as a consultant for 20 years, in addition to my work as a family therapist and custody evaluator for the courts. Most of all, it was here that Rabbi Zeldin lifted me up when I was at the lowest point in my life. And now, I have been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. It is a disease that diminishes my ability to think, find words, and reach my dreams. It is progressing slowly. But I remember that Rabbi Zeldin taught me that independence often means asking for help. I thank all the rabbis and my wife Aviva for giving me the help I needed to write this sermon and deliver it while honoring my individuality. Once more, it is the clergy who have empowered and transformed my life. It is written in the Talmud, one who teaches Torah in this world will do so also in the next. Rabbi Zeldin, wherever your spirit may reside, I remain your faithful disciple. Amen.
Ian, thank you so much. I can't imagine a more beautiful tribute to Rabbi Zeldin. And I can't thank you enough for your courage and for sharing your story with us. I've known you not as long as Rabbi Stern, but for many years. And when I first read your draft of your Devar Torah, there were things I just didn't know. And I'm grateful to you. And if ever anyone needed a reminder of how important community is and how important a synagogue is and how important a rabbi or a cantor or a teacher or a therapist can be, your words are that reminder. So thank you so much, Ian.